So the title of my talk is Beyond the Snapshot, Your Brain and Spasmodic Dysphonia, because when we think of neuroimaging, we think of a single picture in time or one quick snapshot, and the research that we're doing is a much more dynamic picture, and so hopefully you'll get the sense of it. It's not going to be quite as in the weeds as Dr. Burke's presentation. I hope to keep it pretty light and understandable. I also have no disclosures to declare. So I added this slide last night after becoming very inspired by hearing all of your SD journeys. This is my SD journey. So I first came into, so I'm a physical therapist by training. The way I come into this research is from the neurology world. So my passion is trying to understand the brain mechanisms of disease. And I became very fascinated with hand dystonia because it is a disorder of neural plasticity. So it's a disorder of brain connectivity. And as a physical therapist, the hand is much more in our typical area of expertise. And I was very fortunate to receive some funding from the Dystonia Medical Research Foundation and the Dystonia Coalition, where we did some work with measuring what is happening in the brain and some exploratory treatments. I then was giving a talk on this at my home university, and my Ph.D. student at the time was a speech-language pathologist, and there was an ENT in the room, Shep Godding, who some of the ENTs may know, who said, you know, you can get dystonia in the larynx too. And I was like, well, yeah, I knew that. You can get it in your eye, you can get it in your neck, you can whatever. And I started digging in, and it turned out that the hand has been explored quite extensively, because it's super easy to get at, muscles in the hand. But really nothing that we had been doing in the hand had been done in the larynx. So we should probably do that, I thought. And I wrote a grant to the NIH, and the NIH said, yeah, you should figure out how to do that. It's called a high-risk, high-payoff grant, and it was basically see if you can measure those things that you say you can measure, see if you can do that. So I got that grant, and then I called the NSDA. Well, not really. I applied for the grant, and I said, you know, I already got this money from the NIH to bring in all these people and test all these things, but it would be really great if you could give me a little bit more money, and I could do some imaging on them too. And they said, okay. And then that work that was funded by the NSDA led to our next phase of research, which we've just started now, also funded from the NIH. This is a big research grant from them, where we were really further exploring that neuroimaging piece. So ultimately, the essence of this journey is a lot of gratitude for the NSDA, and especially for Kim. Is she still going? She left. Because she really was one of the first people at a Dystonia Coalition meeting, a Dystonia Coalition meeting when I first started talking about this, and she said, you know who you need to talk to? You got to talk to Christy Ludlow. And so I started, and she introduced us, and that has led to a really great partnership. Okay, so that's my journey, and now we're going to tell you what I am researching. First thing I'm going to tell you is that yes, your SD is all in your head. That you've been told that many times, and they were absolutely correct. Because the problem is in your brain, and it turns out that your brain is in your head. So the areas of the brain that help you make speech, we primarily think of them from the motor perspective. So just if you're curious, we have the cerebral cortex here. That's kind of the big one that everybody thinks about. We have the little baby brain called the cerebellum. We've got the things in the brainstem, and we have the basal ganglia. And this is the variety of different dystonias that I also work with, one in the hand and one in the neck, the cervical dystonia, which, just to be extra confusing, is called spasmodic torticollis. So that, just if you want to lead to other name problems with confusion. But you can see the hand curling and her neck spasming as she's trying to do this. I don't have to play the ADSD one because you guys know what that sounds. So how can we study the brain and how it works? Well, we can do brain scans. So here we have the real live version of all of those brain areas. And we also have a tool that we use called transcranial magnetic stimulation. And that's different. We have this electrode that we hold on top of your skull, and there's a little pulse that is generated, and then that creates a signal that goes down, it stimulates the brain and creates a signal that we can measure with little electrodes on whatever muscle that we care about. So this is what it looks like in real life. We have this coil here, and there's ways that we can do this very simple procedure, and it measures excitability. So this is what the machine that generates the signal looks like. Here, these are EMG electrodes on the hand here that we're recording. And then you get a response. So EMG is great because it is a very objectifiable, measurable response that we can quantify. And this is, I'm just going to walk you through this because it's quite visual. This is one of the measures that we do. It's called the cortical silent period. So what you have is somebody making a low-level contraction. In this case, it's in the hand. And that is visible here by that activity. So here's that. Then we do that TMS pulse on the brain over the area of the brain that controls that muscle that we're measuring. And that's here. And then what happens is you get this increased response, and then you get a silent response. And the duration, this is super fancy, you measure how long it is in milliseconds, is the level of excitability in your brain. Super reliable. We've studied this thing inside out. There's a lot of other measures. This one's the best one. Super reliable, and we can get it, it's very sensitive as well. So this is a comparison in healthy people, their cortical silent period, compared to people with hand dystonia. So you can see, here's how long, so there's more inhibition, there's more silence here. In somebody with dystonia, there's less inhibition or less silence. So we know that people with hand dystonia have impaired inhibition. And then this is that fabulous speech-language pathologist grad student that I had, who was brought me into the SD world. So she compared healthy people in this measure, this cortical silent period measure, people with hand dystonia and people with ADSD. And this is just measuring the excitability in their hand muscle. Okay? You're measuring not in the involved muscle, not in the dystonic muscle, but in the hand muscle. And it turned out that both people with hand dystonia and ADSD, when we looked at their hand, they had impaired inhibition. Another thing that has been mentioned several times is muscle tension dysphonia. And as many of you probably know, that's a commonly misdiagnosed disorder that just to the ear, it's very difficult to tell which disorder you may have. So we used this measure as a way to try to see if we could help improve the diagnosis. Because if people with dystonia have this impaired neurologic measure, we should be able to measure that and then help with that diagnosis. And indeed, we were able to tell the difference between, on a group level. It didn't always work on an individual level, so it's not a pure biomarker, but this may be something that could be entered into the whole package that helps people get a diagnosis. So then we moved into the larynx. So nobody had measured this, used this kind of measurement in the actual muscle that is affected in people with spasmodic dysphonia. So we put these little tiny fine wire electrodes in the thyroid muscle, or the vocal fold muscle, and we use our TMS coil to generate this electric pulse, and then we record a response. And you know that you're in the right muscle because you can hear and E, 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 and then you can see these nice little EMG bursts. So we know that we're in the muscle that we want to be in. And then we get these responses. This is 50 responses out of each TA muscle. So now we're measuring that same thing that we measured in the hand. We're measuring it in the larynx on each side. And these bar graphs just show that we repeated the finding that we'd had before, that people with SD have less inhibition in the hand than healthy people do. That just repeated what we had already found. But then when we looked at their larynx, the excitability and the part of the brain that controls the larynx, that also was less. So this decreased inhibition appears to be everywhere in your brain. It is not just in the muscle that is affected, it is throughout the entire brain. So now you're sitting there thinking, well, that's really nice, but so what? How is this going to help me? Well, the reason that this is an interesting area of research is that neuromodulation is a tool that is available to us, and that is the ability to change the way, the excitability within your brain. This has been used in a number of disorders, including people with stroke. We've studied it in people with focal hand dystonia, but it's also been used in a variety of other disorders. And I'm not talking about electric shock therapy here. I'm talking about a low, non-invasive type of brain stimulation. So why is this inhibition thing important? The key to a healthy brain is to have a balance of excitation and inhibition. So you have to have a little bit of both. And you can get disorders or problems if you have too much excitability or if you have too much inhibition. So just another kind of cartoon description of that. So you have this imbalance. In this case, say not enough inhibition. You have low inhibition. And you also have low function. Well, we know that with some kinds of therapy or training or other things, we can increase the function. But it doesn't have a long-term lasting effect. We also know, through some other work that we've done, that we can change the brain excitability, so we can change that inhibition, and that may lead to a slight improvement in function. Ultimately, what I think the magic answer is going to be combining this brain stimulation with a type of rehabilitation therapy to help train the new pathways. So what will happen then is hopefully we will have an increase in inhibition as well as a long-lasting and a meaningful increase in function. The point of all this is that if we can learn how to modulate the brain, we can create a new framework by which other kinds of connections can be built. So in people with hand dystonia, we've done some work with this where we used, this is what somebody's handwriting looks like when they're trying to draw loops here. We've done some work with this. And this, we did a 5-day treatment on people with hand dystonia with repeated inhibitory brain stimulation every day for 5 days. And you can see this is at pretest. This is immediately after the 5 days of therapy. And then this was 2 weeks later. So we have had some lasting improvement associated with that brain stimulation. Changing gears a little bit, the neuroimaging part. So functional MRI is like a regular MRI, but it actually measures the function of what's going on inside of your brain. So you've all probably had a regular MRI that just looks at the structure, but the functional measures what's going on inside. So we have done what we call a whole brain multimodal assessment, where we use those TMS measures as well as the fMRI, the functional MRI measures, and we're looking to see what is the connectivity. So it's not just the action in one brain region or a reaction in a different brain region. It's how are all of these places in the brain talking to each other. And it turns out that we found some interesting preliminary data here. This is what has spurred the new project. So this is one brain with everybody who participated in our last study. These are the little dots associated with, when I stimulate there, that's when I made that person's vocal folds go. And when that person was in our MRI, our functional MRI, and going E, 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 that area of activation was like, let's say right there. And we wanted to understand where is the connectivity between those two regions. And our hypothesis was, well, these are people with SD. When they're doing a task, that is when we're going to see these big differences between the two groups, between healthy people and people with SD. When they're vocalizing, that's when we're going to see differences. And these are just individual people related to the amount of connectivity. So the blue people are control, healthy people, and the red are people with SD. And during the task assessment, there was no difference. They were the same. Well, then we looked at what was happening at rest. So we also have this way to measure this connectivity, not when you're doing anything, you just lay there in the scanner and try not to doze off. And what we found, other than this one person here, this one control patient, there was this is where the one is variable, but this is where there were differences, was at rest. So this led us to think that the problem may be related to a lack of economy. So when your brain is at rest, when you have to do something, your brain knows how to kick together and try to make it work. But actually when you're at rest was when we found the most differences. So it may be that we may be able to modulate the way that that brain is connected, and it may be that that treatment, we can figure it out, actually is at rest. So again, this so what? Well, here is, actually NSDA funded this little project too. This is my current postdoc, and we have tested all 3 people so far. What we're trying to do is just see, okay, if we modulate your brain, you have SD, and you come in, and we know you don't have enough inhibition, and we increase your inhibition just one time, it's 20 minutes, we're not trying to cure you. We're just trying to say, with one treatment, can we change these people's voice? Well, and can we change their excitability? So you guys, this is one person, so you guys are all equally qualified scientists here. So if this is at pretest, this is their, you can see how, this is the EMG, you can see how this gets kind of quiet right here. This is the silent period. And then after the one treatment, 20 minutes of inhibitory TMS, this is the silent period. So you can decide if you think that that looks like it gets a little longer or not. I think so. But now let's listen to the voice. We'll just, again, this is one person. Here's pretest. And this is after 20 minutes of inhibitory.
Eat every Easter.
So I'll tell you that the person and the spouse that was sitting in the room when she spoke for the first time after the inhibitory TMS, they both went like this. So I don't know, we've just started scratching the surface on this, but this is ultimately what I hope this kind of research, with understanding this connectivity and the excitability, this is what I hope will happen. It's great and fine to understand the brain, but what's even better is if we can understand the brain and then actually make the connections different. Okay, so what is it that we need to continue to do? We need to better understand the brain network dysfunction. It's not just in one area. It's a complex thing, this brain, and we need to understand it all. And then we need to figure out what's the best way to modulate it. There's a lot of different options to change the inhibition and excitation. Maybe we can find a way to have a biomarker, because probably a given treatment will not work for every single person. So is there a way that we can test you and say, you know what, you're going to be very likely to respond to this treatment? We also need people to participate in research. So if you have SD, and best, if you do not have SD, actually, people with SD are fabulous. They come from all around the country, even to Minnesota in the winter, and they're willing to participate and help out. What we really need are healthy people. So spouse, sister, friend, if you would really like to help and support your partner and experience what it's like to have needles injected into your larynx, I'm willing to do that for you. And it's no big deal. You can talk with the men. It's actually way less painful than the Botox. This is what I've heard. But you don't even know that it's happening. But we would love to have you participate. What else we need? We need more funding. We need more funding for continued research. So this $40,000 investment that the NSDA made turned into a $1.7 million NIH grant. So that's a huge return on investment. these are all my funding sources that I'm eternally grateful for, my collaborators, and of course most grateful for our patients. Often when people come in, you get to, we are willing to pose with you with this really great looking picture with all of the needles and electrodes sticking out of your neck.